and welcome to our Morning Throners podcast.
I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Glo.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're the fucking Morning Throners.
Welcome back to another episode of Morning Throners podcast. Me, Nelson, Kyle, and Glo are here talking Eddard. I think it's Eddard 4.
Maybe
3.
5.
I don't know.
We need to start buttoning this up.
Nelson counts. Nelson's all he's good for is counting. If he did notes tonight, hopefully he did his job.
Ned 5.
We'll be fine. Ned 5. Really cool, quick chapter. But
Takes
I think
place
there's
12 days
cool,
after the Arya chapter.
No one cares about the timeline.
18
the timeline
days after the last
matter.
Ned chapters. They've been in King's Landing 18 days.
The timeline doesn't matter, folks.
All
If you're trying to care about the timeline, forget about it, okay?
Forget about it.
Just forget about it.
So we got Ned. He's down in Grandmaster Pycelle's chambers. All right, and Glo, take it away from there. Set up the scene.
Ned's super hot and sweaty down there. They're talking about how
Why is he
with
there?
Master Pycelle.
Sweating balls, son.
God, do you know why he's down there?
Why is he down there?
Do I know
Well,
why
he
he's
wanted
down
to
there?
go talk
'Cause
to him.
He wanted to hear about John Aaron.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Trying to kind of
Yeah, but that's later on a little bit.
of John.
No, that's why
First
he's
line
there.
says,
Oh, it's right
Ned has
away. The
gone to
first
see
line, yeah.
Grandmaster.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're,
but then so Grandmaster Pycelle's like, "Oh, yeah, John was."
All
there
right,
with the
so
hand."
we'll let Glo go back. So he's hot and sweaty. So
Okay.
how's Grandmaster offer to alleviate
Maester
that?
Pycelle's like, yo, do you want some iced milk? Iced sweetened milk.
With what?
And
with
Sweetened
honey.
with what?
with honey.
Yeah,
Sweetened with
Kyle's the honey guy. We need to mention honey every time it comes up.
That's true. I forgot about that.
I don't
Do you know, Kyle, that you could live off of honey?
Kyle, have you ever sweetened
And
your
only
milk
honey?
with honey?
Yes, he
know,
definitely
and
knows
I've never
this.
iced milk
Do you
either.
plan on trying
Yeah,
it
who
now
puts
that you've read
ice in their
this?
milk?
No. Is it ice in their milk, or do they freeze the milk?
You Probably- there's
I've,
probably
I've made
slushy.
milk ice cubes before when I was a kid, for being honest.
No, not even that. Just like
That's
a milk
not a bad
slushy,
idea.
like where it's like the chipped
No,
pieces
I've just
of
made
icy
ice
milk
cubes
floating
and
in
put
there.
it in my milk to keep my milk cold and not watered down.
No, that's great. That's
what I
amazing.
said or what
I
Kyle
love it.
said? Milk slushy sounds
No,
gross.
what you're saying.
I guess milk slushies and milkshakes.
I've seen that a bunch with
Milk
uh,
slushies suck.
coffee.
The
coffee
milkshakes
ice
are
cubes.
great though.
Coffee ice cubes, so you don't dilute your coffee too.
Oh, iced coffee. That's what cold brews is. All right, we're getting
Yeah,
off topic. He gives them iced milk. I'm gonna try that. Jeff, when you
not.
come over this weekend, we're gonna have some iced honeyed milk.
All right, deal.
We'll do a review. We'll do a review and put it on our YouTube video. Iced milk review.
And Glow's coming too.
Glo will be there too. Kyle will be in Jamaica. All right,
Whoever
continue.
comments on it gets $5.
Did anybody
Glo,
get
go.
that $5 besides
Not
me?
yet. We put
No?
2 podcasts out now that both called out, and no one has volunteered for it.
I'm just,
Nobody
All
wants
right,
to
so
admit.
basically they order the ice milk, and then they start talking about how hot it is and how it means the end of summer, or it could be the longest summer ever. But really, Pycelle's like, nah, it means summer's coming to an end. Basically, it's the last summer of the
it's always
last year of
It's
summer.
always hottest right before the winter.
Pycelle tells
Yeah.
a story about a hotter summer in his childhood before
I
Ned's
forget
father.
who
I
was
wouldn't
that?
say childhood. I'm gonna say young adulthood.
Yeah, he was studying at the Citadel, so he was like in schooling age. But it's interesting because the king at the time was King Maekar, who Jeff, Glo, and I know from the Dunk and Egg books.
Yeah.
So after that, I don't know exactly what the sentence is. I probably should have written it down, but I have a vocab
I got it right
word
here.
for
What do
you
you
guys.
need?
I have
Is
a
it a
vocab
Game of
word
Thrones
for you
word?
guys. I think
Just
it's a Game
thinking.
of Thrones word. It's not because I looked it up and it's not a Game of Thrones
Is
word.
it
But I don't think
soldier?
anybody knows. I don't think you guys know what it is.
Which
it
one?
was he's describing Grandmaster Pycelle's eyes. He says he has roomery
Lidded?
eyes.
Rugally?
Rumor.
Roomery. RHEUME. Roomy.
Huh.
Glassy.
I'm not gonna be able to find
It's
it.
definitely glazed and like filmed over.
It means full of room, and room is like pus or like
Ew.
Ew.
It's like
Water.
cataract eyes.
so watery. He's got watery eyes. I'm just enhancing it, not only you guys but also the viewers' vocab every single
You're just
episode.
wasting our time. Per usual.
You're gonna be able to drop that in a sentence one day and just SAT words.
Wow,
the
your
shit out of
eyes are
someone.
roomery.
You are so
Roomy.
beautiful with your roomy eyes. Yeah, get the
All
word.
right, so the girl comes back with the milk after this talk of summer, and Ned immediately is like, "Yo, this milk is
No,
way
no.
too sweet."
Pycelle is like, this milk is dope. It's perfect.
Yeah,
That's
Pycelle loves it, and Ned's
yeah.
like, I want to throw up
He
over
politely
here.
says it's too sweet for his taste.
No, he doesn't
No, he
say
didn't
it.
even
He
say
says
it. He just fucking.
No, I
Well,
mean,
he says he likes it 'cause it's
in his
cold.
point of view, in third person, without saying it out loud, he's like, "It's too sweet for me."
Yeah,
But
but he likes it because it's cold and it's hot as fuck out.
yeah, but that's about the only thing he likes.
So he asked about John Aaron.
Yep, about his death, pretty
and
much.
Pycelle says, if truth be told, the hand had not seemed quite himself for some time. We had sat together on council many a year, he and I, and the signs were there to read, but I put them down to the great burdens he had bore so faithfully for so long. Those broad shoulders were weighed down by all the cares of the realm, and more besides. His son was ever sickly, and his lady wife was so anxious that she would scarcely let the boy out of her sight. It was enough to weary even a strong man, and the Lord John was not young. Small wonder if he seemed melancholy and tired, or so I thought at the time, yet now I am less certain. He gave a ponderous shake of his head. So this is like what Pycelle's talking about, like leading up to John Aaron's death. He
So-
First of all, why didn't you do it in a Pycelle voice?
Yeah,
I'm a little
come on, man.
disappointed.
when I do the
But,
short
yeah.
quotes, I feel like I can get away
You
with
had
doing the
no
voice.
roomy eyes there at all. I'm just
You guys yell at me for doing the
So-
long quotes, so I'm trying to do short quotes I can do in little
Alright.
bursts like that.
That was good. All right, fine.
So did they ever
Whatever.
talk about this? Did
I
they
kinda
name?
like the-
did he
the
name
long
John
quotes.
after John?
Yeah.
Did they talk about that? I forget.
I don't know if
I-
it's ever been mentioned.
I think so. I
But,
think
like,
they might have mentioned it.
I don't
It's just
think
like
they
so.
did.
assumed because
Not to this
Okay.
date.
wait, is it?
I don't know
He
if
never. He,
I don't
he
think
they
never
ever-
said that he named his bastard off of the guy he
No,
loves.
I'm saying does Kyle know that he was fostered by John?
Ned was.
Ned.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked
Yeah.
about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, yeah. Yeah, he
But-
just really
but
liked John. I
They
think
never
that's
say
why.
like, "Hey, I'm going to name my bastard off of the guy."
Do,
who
do
I
they
love
ever?
as,
I don't know if they
like,
ever
a
say it in the
second
books, but I
dad.
think like somebody assumes it at one point. Maybe I
well,
don't know.
Yeah,
so
but like, why else name him John? I think
that
it's just
tells
because
me
of
that he probably really likes John's mom.
Well, especially because he named his sons John. Like Ned has two sons, John and Rob.
yeah.
And he has his two best friends were John Aaron and Robert Baratheon. Right.
But I guess
and
that's what-
John's
And then
son is named Rob.
Brandon is his brother's name.
And Brandon's
I
his
just
brother's
feel
name.
like in this time period, it'd be an insult to John Aaron to name your bastard after him.
But
That's
that's what
true.
I'm saying is like I think he I think it shows that he respected the lady that birthed his bastard.
Oh,
Little
that she-
insight
maybe.
into the
Okay,
woman.
maybe.
I'm just
like she
gonna
respects
go there.
John. He respects John more than a normal bastard almost.
No,
Oh,
I
yeah.
could see that.
Yeah,
I
I think that's
yeah,
what I'm saying is because we don't know who John's mom is yet, so I think that's maybe a little hint as to John's
Yeah.
mom's.
Look at Kyle digging through the pile there, dude.
Kyle
We're just-
digging
we-
through the pile.
We can go with that. We'll leave it there. You guys can talk about it later. I don't want any confirmation or denial.
So this is talking about leading up to their death, and there's a bomb dropped that I'm gonna mention now. There's a bomb dropped later on about John Aaron's death, in regards to who we think did it. Right?
Yeah.
So here's something though, right? So here he's talking about how John kind of looked a little fucked up a couple days before, but then later
He just attributed it to something else.
He contributed to like a stomach bug.
Well, no. Even right here, he says, "If truth be told, the hand had not seemed quite himself for some time. We sat together in council, blah blah blah. I put it down to the great burdens he had bore so faithfully for so long." So, like, even Maester Pycelle is saying, "Yes, he seemed like something was up, but I just figured it was because just all this bullshit was getting to him."
but then he said he came and got that book and he was fine.
Well, even when he says he got the
He-
book,
he
he
And
was,
he
he
said
was
he felt like
healthy.
stronger than ever too. Yeah.
He says he
as
was
strong as
healthy, but
ever.
he didn't seem fine. He said there was definitely something.
No,
like,
that's not true.
read that line. I don't know if I
Okay.
have it. I don't think we're there.
As
yet.
hale and healthy as ever.
Keep
Yeah.
going.
Though it did seem to me that something was troubling him deeply. Yeah, you're right.
But right here, we're just talking about the illness right beforehand, and he said that like even Grandmaster Pycelle is saying he sees that maybe something could have been up. But you're right. Like he says, the day before he seemed healthy as ever.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. The book is the next thing, and then we find out that after he became ill, who took care of him?
Coleman.
Another
Maester Coleman.
So who knows who Maester Coleman
who then
is?
got sent away.
He is House Aaron's.
Yeah, House
Maester.
Aaron's Maester. So this is like John's personal Maester, right? That
Okay.
basically he brought with him. It's like if Ned brought Lewin with him, and Ned gets sick and has Lewin take after him, and Maester
Which
Pycelle
is
sends
weird.
him away.
Who's the Maester when like Lewin can't leave because he's the Maester of Winterfell? Like
I guess, but maybe it's a different story if like Bran's not hurt and like you know what I mean. Like maybe they pack up at more people and go.
They
I
could've-
guess they made their
and
plan.
they
They did
send
make
the
their
young
plans.
maester up.
They did
Lewin
make their
probably
plans.
has another person behind him, kind of.
Yeah, and like sometimes, like we find out later. Right now at Storm's End, there's 2 maesters. Right, there's a young one and an old one. The young one's trained to
right.
replace the old one. Maybe in that situation, they would send the old one because they have a
gotcha.
backup.
Makes sense.
But yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't hate it.
But yeah, then Pycelle sends him away, and Pycelle, like he gives a reason for why he was sent away. What's he say?
He was making him shit his guts out, and he thought
He
it was going
says-
to kill him.
He was too young, and he was like trying to over-treat him basically with like the wrong stuff. And he asked about his final moments and any last words he said.
I have it here.
The first one he says is Robert,
And then
but they're not in what they're not sure if they're talking about his son or
the
king.
king. Yeah.
And Lysa won't let their son into the bedroom because she's afraid that like John's contagious and that the son will catch it.
right. and the
But
son's
Robert
just a little
used
bitch.
to actually go and like talk for hours.
Yeah, the king, which is kind of crazy. Like if you really, like, I'm sure.
Well, that's
the
like a
Maesters
really
weren't
sweet
too worried
thing.
about it because, like, if it was that
Yeah, why would they let the
contagious, you
king?
wouldn't put the king in that harm. But
Well, yeah, they
Yeah.
weren't afraid that it was contagious, but like you gotta think like from what we know about Robert, that's like a super nice thing to do. They said that literally
Yeah.
John's not talking at this point. He's like to the point where all he can say is
and
Robert.
Robert would just sit
And
there
Robert
for
sit there for hours and talk to him. You know, it's not like a
which
conversation.
is also weird because the Robert that we've seen since he's been mentioned in this book is just like all about himself and getting
yeah,
drunk
and like who knows? Maybe part of that
fucking
is grief because he obviously cares about this dude.
right.
But then yeah, so then the last thing Ned's like, that's all he said, and then it says just before here I'll do a Grand Maester voice for you guys. Just before he closed his eyes for the last time, he whispered something to the king and his lady wife, a blessing for his son. The seed is strong, he said. At the end, his speech was too slurred to comprehend. Death did not come until the next morning, but Lord John was at peace after that. He never spoke again.
Dude, you're awful. It's awful.
He's like a super 100-year-old. How old is he? Is he
Old
older
man.
than
Yeah,
old
and
He's
man?
you
not
sound-
that old. He's
you
not as
sound
old as
like-
Eamon.
You sound like you just smoked or like sucked in helium.
I'm about to die.
You need to get some coughs in there.
I'll
like
edit
he's-
it.
Doesn't sound like a bitch.
Oh my
Oh my
god.
gosh. When do
It's
you guys
not
want to do it?
Joffrey when he gets old. No, let's keep going.
So Ned asks if there's anything unnatural. Yeah, he says the seed is strong. About so what? Pycelle
seed is
there
strong.
says it's a blessing for his own son. The seed is strong, basically saying that his son is strong.
Yeah.
So then Ned asks if there's anything unnatural about his death. And Pycelle
Unnatural?
says no, not, and that John is actually at peace. He says like a whole spiel like death is the most natural thing in life, blah 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 blah, and John is at peace now. Like basically, he doesn't have to take care of all these burdens
Yeah.
anymore.
I mean, and they dig deeper, and he's like, "Oh, but is it? Can you relate this to any other case you've seen?" And he's like, I've seen so many people die. Like they all have their similarities, they all have their differences.
It's
Like,
actually a
really
good
hard to
excuse.
tell."
He says like the surest thing about illnesses is that they're all different. He's like, and
Yeah.
John's was no different than any other, and like that's a pretty good excuse when you have like the experience that Pycelle does, right?
Yeah, I mean, how long has he been there? Since 4 Kings.
I mean,
now,
it's
he
also
said?
true, right? Like I guess like every case is different.
Yeah,
Especially
I mean,
Like
when,
like,
every case is the same.
some colds you could have a sore throat and a chest, or maybe it's a runny nose and a sore throat.
Yeah.
You
So then
never
that's what Ned says. Ned says Lysa disagrees, basically like showing his hand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like nobody knows that he's been in communication to Lysa about John's death at this point, except for like Kat and Littlefinger, who he told in the episode a couple.
Which is
episodes
kind
ago,
of-
where
I
Kyle
mean-
Kyle even called out at that point that him telling Littlefinger was stupid.
Right, and we talk about the Game of Thrones. Like he's given a lot of information now. Like he trusts Grandmaster Pycelle. He's
Well,
talking
too
to
much
him.
here. You know what I mean, dog?
Like he's not holding his cards. Like
Especially because after this conversation, he even says like he knows Pycelle isn't to be trusted. Like when he's
right,
walking,
you're
out,
like
he thinks that.
who's he gonna tell? Like what the fuck are you telling him all this shit for?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So when Ned says Lysa disagrees, Pycelle's answer is it's pretty good. He says grief can derange even the strongest and disciplined minds, and Lysa is not that.
Yeah.
he says
how fucked up is that?
That
Like,
since her last stillbirth, she's seen enemies everywhere, and John's death shattered her. So since her last stillbirth implies multiple stillbirths.
yeah,
So she's had multiple like Is stillbirth and
Miscarriages.
miscarriage the same thing?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Or
Yeah.
it's like past the point where like the baby.
I
it's
think
like
a
fully
stillbirth is like
formed
when it
at,
baby.
comes out.
at during delivery. It just,
Yeah,
like,
well,
dead
it's
when
like
it
no,
comes
it's a
out.
fully formed baby that just isn't living.
That's way worse, right? I thought a miscarriage was like way earlier in the process. I don't know. Both are bad.
I don't know the. I think
Both are
miscarriage
bad.
would usually be like earlier
Was
on,
it
but I
like
don't know
a
how early.
square and a rectangle thing? Like a stillbirth is a miscarriage, but a miscarriage
Probably.
doesn't have to be a stillbirth?
Something like that.
I don't know. I that's a
Anyone who knows, write us in.
Or don't.
$5.
You'll
We
get
can leave
$5
that
for
topic
it.
undiscovered.
We'll give
yeah.
you $5.
Kyle, you haven't been saying much. What do you think of the conversation so far?
I don't have
at this
anything
point?
to say to you.
What do you think of the conversation at this point?
So I mean, it's obvious that it's like pretty guarded. I feel like this is some story. At the very least, I think that it's pretty obvious that he did not die of natural causes.
All right. So before this chapter, what did you think killed John?
I mean, I always assumed it was probably Cersei.
Okay. So, but we find I hinted at it earlier. We find out something in this chapter that the Lannisters aren't here when John's dead. Does that change your opinion at all, or does anything else in
No.
this chapter change your opinion?
No.
All right. Well, we'll keep going. I just want to see. What
I think
you
it
thought of this.
solidifies it.
All right, we'll get there and we'll see what you thought. You've been quiet. Wanted to get wanted the viewers to hear your or the listeners to hear your beautiful voice.
My silky,
Yeah.
silky
All right,
smooth voice.
So Ned gets his.
So the next thing I got is a
bring
quote,
up
Jeff. If
Poison.
you want to do your quote.
Are we
do a
going to talk
quote.
about Ned bringing up poison, or are we?
Yeah,
are we
that's
not
it.
there yet?
Poison.
That's the
poison. Poison.
Glow,
All right,
you want
what
to
are
be
we
Ned
doing?
since you're the best Ned, and Jeff, you can be Pycelle.
Poison.
Glow will be Ned.
Glow will be Ned. So you're quite certain that John Arryn died of a sudden illness?
I'm ready. Page 253.
Kyle, you got narrator. Unless you want me to do it.
You do it.
So you were quite certain that John Arryn died of a sudden illness?
I am.
Pycelle replied gravely.
If not illness, my good lord, what else could it be?
Poison.
Ned suggested quietly. Pycelle's sleepy eyes flicked open. The aged maester shifted uncomfortably in his seat.
A disturbing thought. We are not the free cities, where such things are common. Grandmaster Aethelmure wrote that all men carry murder in their hearts, yet even so, the poisoners beneath contempt.
He fell silent for a moment, his eyes lost in thought.
What you suggest is possible, my lord, yet I do not think it likely. Every hedgemaster knows the common poisons, and Lord Arryn displayed none of the signs, and the hand was loved by all. What sort of monster in man's flesh would dare to murder such a noble lord?
I have heard it is said that poison is a woman's weapon.
Pycelle stroked his beard thoughtfully.
It is said, women, cravens, and eunuchs.
He cleared his throat and spat a thick glob of phlegm over the rushes. Above them, a raven cawed loudly in the rookery.
Caw! Caw!
The Lord Varys was born a slave in lease, did you know? Put not your trust in spiders, my lord.
All right, that's where I have the quote ending. That was good. I see what you mean about a different Pycelle voice. I think the old high pitch is still viable.
Oh, fuck.
So, Kyle, do you think that Pycelle is just feeding John bullshit?
Yeah.
Or feeding Ned bullshit?
Yeah, and I think that maybe he doesn't know the ins and outs, but I think overall he knows something was up.
Do you think he was in on it then? Like
That's
why
what.
he's
Yeah,
feeding
that was my
bullshit?
next question. Do you think he's in it, or do you think he either the poison was just so good that he honestly mistook it for illness, or he was honestly tricked, or is he in on it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess this dude can't be that dumb if he's got all these medals on his neck, right?
He's
Also,
been
they
doing
say
it
a
for
part where
long
the
time.
chain. I don't know. They made something. They said something that made me think I was right, but I will leave it. We'll leave it there.
Right about what?
About the chain, we got into a huge fight about the chain. You guys said he had an Egyptian chain on. I said it was just a long chain, like a fucking rapper chain.
I think you were saying it was an Egyptian chain.
No, Jeff.
Oh.
Glow. He does this every fucking time. Glow.
Yeah, Jeff, it was me and you saying Egyptian chain.
And
I still
Kyle
believe
said
it.
Egyptian
Well, that's
chain.
because of the way he said it was choking him. It was like a choker.
Well, it said it went from his
It says
neck.
wrapped
it said it
around
went-
his neck multiple times.
And it said it went from his neck to his nipples or something. Whatever. We're not getting into it. We'll get into it later when they describe it better. And Ned says, like, yeah. So after this, Ned's like, yeah, I know. Like, there's something about Varys that, like, makes me uncomfortable. And he says, like, I'm done here. But the conversation goes on for about as long as it did so far. He thanks Varys. And he's about to get up. And he's like, oh, can I also see that book that John came asking about? And do you remember what Pycelle says it is, Kyle?
It's like the history of the kings, right?
I think it's just
Families,
all great
lineages
houses.
or
noble,
something.
noble houses are the main houses.
A ponderous tome. I feel you will find that of little interest. It was a ponderous tome by Grand Maester Melion on the lineages of great houses. Ned's like, I still want to see it. And Pycelle's like, all right, when I find it, I'll have it sent over. And then Ned's like, when Robert visited, did the Queen visit? And this is when we find out, no, she was on a trip back to Castle Rock with her father after the tournament on Joffrey's name day.
Yep.
So she
Dark wings,
poisoned
dark
him
words,
and
my
left.
friends.
So as he leaves, he says,
So that Nelson wouldn't suspect that it was her.
what? Well,
I said-
Pycelle. So even as Ned leaves, he says, Pycelle says, like, I'm here to serve you, or I'm here to serve my lord. And Ned's like, yes, but who? Like, and again, that's in like italics, which is always like.
But whom?
All right, what happens on the way back? Kyle, take it over. On the way back to his chambers.
Arya's flamingoing it up in the stairway, just like standing on one leg, trying to be a better fighter. She's
How's that make her a
training.
better fighter?
What's up?
Water
does that make her a
dancers.
better fighter?
'Cause balance is obviously pretty important. To
I'm
the
asking
sword
you,
fight.
like, what does she say when Ned's like, what are you doing?
Ah,
Water dancers can stand on a single toe for hours.
Yeah, there you go. Which one? She says any toe.
Any of them.
And so here's some. I like this. This is one of the few scenes I like a little bit better in the show than in the book.
Well, that's because there's more substance in the
Well, the next
show,
one,
for sure.
well, here I'm picturing the stairs are way bigger here, but in the show he says, "Why are you at the top of the stairs? If you fall, like it'll hurt." Here she says, "Water dancers never fall." In the show, she says, "Sirius says every bruise is a lesson, and every lesson makes us stronger." And I think that's a better line.
Nah.
No, water dancers never fall.
Screw
Better
that.
than every bruise is a lesson. Every lesson.
I
makes us
like
stronger.
the bruise as a lesson.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What's HBO
And
trying
then the
to give
other thing
lessons out?
is
What
when
fucking-
at the end of this, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. At the end, when Ned's like, you'll marry a king and raise his children, and they'll do all the great things that Bran wanted to do or whatever. She says, no, that's Sansa. In the show, she says, no, that's
No,
not
that's
me.
not me.
And they make some callbacks to that later on, which
No, that
is pretty
Sansa
cool.
is way better.
No, that Sansa is pretty
Yeah.
good, but no, that's not me. I like it because the callbacks later on, but whatever. All right, we'll go back to
I'm with you on both accounts now.
thanks, Jeff.
I'm with Kyle on both accounts there.
Shut the phone.
You never
No one-
want
never
to
said
be on,
anything about the first
on a
one.
Kyle's side.
I know.
You realize Nelson was your option.
All right, so
You-
after they talk about
The water dancing.
The
We
water
get a
dancing
little
stuff.
Bran story about when they found out that Bran was still alive.
yeah, so we found out
Oh,
that
no
they,
legs.
and I think Pycelle mentioned something of it too. He said like everyone in the capital with a good heart was rejoiced to hear when we heard the news that your boy was still alive or something like that. So we heard earlier that they got the news already. Here, Arya asked if Bran's going to come stay with him because that was part of the original plan. Bran was coming down
Right.
to King's Landing with the girls.
But Catelyn just couldn't bear losing Bran, her favorite.
Yeah, so she,
Which is just a
well,
bad mom. You can't have a favorite. She said that.
Yeah, you can.
We
Totally
already
can.
been over this. You can't have
Just
because
because you're not the favorite, just because
Just
Jared.
because you don't get socks every time your mom comes home doesn't mean anything, Jeff.
Yeah. My
So
mom would
Arya-
ship me off to King's Landing, I tell
So
you.
Arya
that.
asked a pretty deep question. She's like, "What's Bran gonna do with his life?
Yeah.
Like he has no legs." She realizes
He
that
ain't
like
Can he
banging
still
any
be a
chicks. He ain't. No.
No, he cannot.
Ned's answer. He has years to find the answer, Arya. For now, it's enough to know that he will live. The night the bird had come from Winterfell, Eddard Stark had taken the girls to the Castle Godwood, an acre of elm and alder and black cottonwood overlooking the river. The heart tree there was a great oak, its ancient limbs overgrown with smokeberry vines. They knelt before it to offer their thanksgiving, as if it had been a weirwood. Sansa drifted to sleep as the moon rose. Arya several hours later, curling up in the grass under Ned's cloak. All through the dark hours he kept his vigil alone. When dawn broke over the city, the dark red blooms of the dragon's breath surrounded the girls where they lay. "I dreamed of Bran," Sansa had whispered to him. "I saw him smiling."
And I think that's it then, right? They cut out of that Godswood
Yeah,
section.
that's the section
Yeah.
of the Godswood. So
I
what
was
the
kind of
interesting
confused when I read it. I was like,
I was confused.
wait,
the
too.
where
interesting
are
thing
we
of this
now?
Godswood section that we find out, and they kind of mentioned earlier, all the weirwoods were cut down south of the neck. Like Catelyn says something like that. All the
Yeah.
weirwoods were cut down in the south, something like that. So that's why they don't even have a weirwood here. They only have this big oak.
Do you think they carved a face in it?
I think they
I would have.
probably.
So you're right. I didn't realize that they cut out of the Godswood. I thought the rest of this took place there.
Yeah, no, it goes back to the stairs.
Yeah, where they're talking about.
It's
they're
kind
talking
of
about
bad
Bran again,
writing
right?
that they don't. Yeah, once Arya
Well,
says
then-
he was going to be a knight, that
When
goes
it-
back to
yeah,
present
it even
time.
says Arya was saying now. That was really about it. That kind of pointed it to being back to this time.
Well,
That
and they're
makes-
talking. I don't know. I feel like the conversation picks up right where Arya left off before. It's like a one paragraph cutaway.
Right.
I don't know. I wasn't confused by it, but I also read it really slow to take the notes.
And you also fucking have read
Read
this
it a bunch
book
of
like
times.
6 times. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, back to it. Arya brings up, oh, he wanted to be a knight. Can he be a knight?
No.
No,
No.
there's no point in lying.
But Ned lists off a whole bunch of stuff that he can do. What's some of the stuff he lifts off, Kyle?
He can be a lord.
Lord.
You might be Bran the Builder.
He could do cool stuff like Bran the Builder, build Winterfell.
Sail.
Sail the sea.
Yeah.
He could sail across the Sunset Sea, which I assume is to the west because sunset.
Or he could be a Septon. A
He
high
could be the High
Septon.
Septon. Yeah. So you take his mother's faith, do all that stuff. But then Ned thinks to himself,
High
internal
septon or like a
monologue, and it's
low
kind of
septon?
like it rips your heart out. But he'll never run beside his wolf again. He thought with a sadness too deep for words, or lie with a woman, or hold his son in his arms. So Ned's thinking of all the stuff Bran won't do, which is pretty rough. I think the saddest one of those is run with the wolf again, and it's cool that that's like one of the first places Ned thinks too, is because you can tell he's still upset about killing Lady after he talked to Cat about the wolves. So Arya, and this is got a little feminist chapter. Arya's like, "Can I do those things?" And Ned's like, "No, you'll just marry a king, rule his castle, blah blah blah, do all that crap, and then your sons will do all that cool stuff that Bran could do or that
And
Bran
she's
wanted to
just
do."
so fucking pissed.
And she's like, "No, that's Sansa." And she gets up and starts doing her stupid balancing thing again, which is pretty dope.
All right, so Ned keeps walking up to his Solar. Like the minute he gets inside, he gets word from someone in his
Alan?
Alan,
Sir Alan.
what's his
it's
last
just
name?
some guy in his
All
guard.
right, and he's like, "Hey, Littlefinger wants to see you." He's like, "All right, send him to my Solar. I'll be up in a second."
I love
changes
Littlefinger.
into
I'm gonna say it right here. I think Littlefinger makes every scene better. Every single thing out of his mouth is like a joke about something.
Yeah, he's not bad.
Who do you like
Good
more,
character.
Tyrion or Baelish?
They're
Tyrion.
both good. They're both good. I
You
want to
say
see
the same thing about both of them. They make every scene so much better.
They're just every single
They're
line
the
they say is like a dig on
best.
someone. Like the first thing he comes in and Littlefinger's like sitting by the window, right, looking at like all the Kingsguard practice, and he's like, if Barristan's mind was as nimble as his blade, our council sessions would be a bit livelier. And Ned's like, oh, Barristan is an honorable knight, blah 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 blah. Like just like chill out, Ned. I feel like
You're
I'm.
just-
I feel like
Baelish is
I'd be way
shut
more
the
like.
fuck-
I feel like I'd be. I feel like I'm just like Littlefinger. And I'm
No,
just
you're
always,
like
being
you're
clever.
like the fucking.
You're Hodler.
I
I'm
can't.
just
I don't
always
remember
being
its
clever.
name, but I can't. You're like the fucking jester, the guy who shows up to the name day
Oh,
drunk.
Pat.
You're like
Patch
Patchface,
face. Oh no.
No.
Butterball.
Fuck.
I know who you're talking about, Jeff. Jeff, I know who you're talking
We're so
about.
close to the end.
All right.
So they're talking about Barristan. Ned like tries to defend his honor, and Littlefinger says, "Yeah, he's honorable, but he's tiresome. But he does stand a good chance in the tournament. He beat the Hound in the last tournament, and
It's been only 4 years since he won the last one.
yeah, exactly." So Ned's like, "Do you have a reason why you're here?" And he's like, "I'm here." And he's like, "I'm here because I told Kat I'd help you out." And he's like, "Have you questioned John's servants?" And Ned's like, "No, he took them all back to the Eyrie."
Oh, but did he?
Oh, all of them, eh?
Nope,
No, there's
There's
four left
people.
over.
One was a slut that got pregnant.
Yeah, pregnant in the kitchens.
Two
Can't say
was
that.
someone who ended up going to the Night's Watch,
City
not the
Watch.
Night's Watch, the City Watch. I don't remember who the third one
A
is.
pop boy discharged from service for theft.
And then the fourth guy was his squire.
Named what, Kyle?
Ding, ding, ding.
His name was
Oh gosh.
My
Sir Hugh of
name
the
is
Vale.
Hugh Hefner.
Hugh of the Vale.
Hugo. No, it's Hugger.
Hug.
It's Game of
Okay.
Thrones name.
Hugh of the
Yeah.
Vale.
Yeah, that's what I said.
So
Okay.
Ned's like, what's Ned's reaction when Littlefinger tells him this?
Oh shit, he must know a lot. I gotta go talk to this boy.
I'll send for him at once. And Little's like,
He's like,
that's
Bailey, she's like, nah, man. You see that guy over there? He's spying on you.
yeah, he's
You
spying
see
on
that
you
guy
for
over
Varys.
there?
That guy's spying on you too for the queen.
That's the queens, dog. And I got like 3 in the corner over there.
All right, Kyle, thoughts at this point? Thoughts?
What do you mean? Thoughts on what?
Are these people actually spies, or is Littlefinger's just?
I think at the very least he's definitely putting some paranoia in Ned, and I think it's probably smart
For the
as
better.
well.
It's probably going to
Yeah.
benefit Ned, whether Littlefinger's telling the truth or not. It's probably going to be for the better.
Now
of
this is where the spoiler of me knowing that Ned dies kind
What?
of kind of ruins a little bit of this.
Spoiler alert!
Because I mean,
Spoiler,
obviously
spoiler
there
alert.
is somebody out to get him at some point.
Okay.
But like, I think at the same time, maybe the dude sharpening his sword doesn't sound like he's paying any attention to Ned.
But that's the guy that Ned says, like, oh,
But
now
just
that I
like
thought about it,
sharpening
that guy
his
is
sword,
looking at me.
staring at him.
No, I thought that was the guy in the tower or the wall.
Well, I thought there
They're
was
all
only two, and
looking.
I thought one was a kid and one was a guy sharpening his sword. I don't know.
No,
I don't
no.
have the quote in front.
They're
of
all looking. Doesn't matter.
They all
No,
look.
the door of the
Yeah.
armory, the boy is squatting by the steps, honing his sword with the oil stone, and the other dude is on the ramparts.
Okay, you're right. I don't know. So, I mean, there's no way to know even for us who've read this
But
book.
we do know that Varys is
Varys is a spy master, so you got to think he's got some spies.
yeah, I mean there's definitely some people around peeping for him.
Peeping Toms.
Yeah, looking in his window.
All right, so this last quote of the chapter is the last quote I have. Who wants? Kyle, you got to be Littlefinger because you haven't been a voice yet, and Glow can be Ned.
I don't remember my Littlefinger voice. Did I
Start
have
with:
one?
Is there a man in your service that you trust utterly and completely?
Oh, is there a man in your service that you trust utterly and completely?
Yes.
Said Ned.
In that case, I have a delightful palace in Valeria that I would dearly love to sell you.
Littlefinger said with a mocking smile.
The wiser answer was no, my lord, but be that as it may, send this paragon of yours to Sir Hugh and the others. Your own comings and goings will be noted, but even Varys the Spider cannot watch every man in your service every hour of the day.
He started for the door.
Lord Peter,
Ned called after him.
I am grateful for your help. Perhaps I was wrong to distrust you.
Littlefinger fingered his small, pointed beard.
You are slow to learn, Lord Eddard. Distrusting me was the wisest thing you've done since you've climbed down off your horse.
I like that Littlefinger voice.
Yeah, see.
All right, so Kyle, thoughts on this last bit? How's this going to go for Ned? Give me a prediction. What happens next Ned chapter?
He
I
gets
know
his
you
head
hate this
cut off.
part.
No.
He gets his head chopped off.
Would you say, I
You
hate
just
what?
keep guessing that. You'll be right eventually.
Yeah. Would you say, I hate this part? I just hate how
So-
open-ended it is.
okay,
and
hold on,
That's
hold
not
on.
how I read books, I guess. And I understand that's why I'm here.
Before I get your prediction, one thing that might be a little bit of a spoiler, but I don't care. It's funny.
Spoiler!
Valyria here, when Littlefinger says, "I have a delightful palace in
Yeah.
Valyria." Glow, what's Valyria?
Is it the whorehouse?
It's like
the
a
whore town?
wasteland.
Oh, it's the
It's
wasteland.
the place where the dragon lords, like, there used to be like thousands of dragons and like a area that's almost the size of Westeros, that every house had its own dragons and like wars were fought with dragons and everything. But each house was basically built on a volcano. They called them the 14 Flames, 14 huge volcanoes. They all erupted at the same time and just turned it was the land of Valyria. It just turned the entire
doom
place.
of
They called it the
Valyria.
Doom, and now it's just like a smoking sea, just like a wasteland, like a Chernobyl type place. So when Ned says yes to, is there someone you trust completely? And he's like, I have a delightful palace in Valyria I'd like to sell
Yeah,
you. It's basically
well,
like,
it's
I have a skyscraper in Chernobyl I'd like to sell you. You know what I mean? It's like, you're so fucking stupid. Basically. I love fucking Littlefinger. Every fucking line's a joke. I don't know.
He just makes everything
I'll quit
He's kind of a
sucking,
cock.
better.
sucking him
Stop
off.
sucking his dick.
Do you have any final thoughts,
Yo,
Kyle?
Nelson. Nelson, real quick, could you imagine a scene with both Tyrion and Baelish? You would nut your pants.
Dude, I wish they would ever be together at some point.
So they never meet. That's a spoiler. Now I know. Thanks. Ruined.
I didn't even mean to.
Books
I was
ruined.
George
Who
R.
did you
Martin.
say?
The thing is,
Who
George
did
R.
you
Martin
say? Who
isn't.
and who?
George R. Martin isn't smart enough to write a dialogue between the two of them. You know what I mean? There's just too much wittiness going back and forth.
There's definitely a scene with them too.
Between who and who?
Littlefinger and Tyrion.
There's gotta be.
What are you doing, Jeff? You take a picture of your chapstick?
Have you ever worked a chapstick down to the nub?
Of course.
That's just
No.
ultimate discipline.
What do you mean?
Nah. Usually they don't get that far. You're right.
They never get this far.
Yeah.
I've worked
Never.
it down. It's
mean that
inside
you mean
itself.
that you
It
didn't
can't
lose
get
it?
any higher.
That you didn't
Correct.
lose it? Oh,
It's
fuck
just
it.
a sign of discipline.
You didn't
I just
lose
wanna-
it. It didn't go
I'm just gonna
bad.
shut
It
up.
I
didn't
think
get
I buy
covered in
Burt's
fucking
Bees, so
lint.
my
I've done that
chapstick
with
costs
wo-
$5, and I'm not losing that shit.
I've done it with lighters all the time.
Oh my god! All right, can we say goodbye to Kyle?
Bye, Kyle.
Can we say goodbye to Kyle?
See you, Kyle.
Bye, Kyle. No more comments on this chapter.
So I mean, well, I guess it seems like there's some truth in both of the stories. I'd say.
All right.
Like in both.
Okay, hold on. I'll ask more direct questions. Pycelle tried to blame this shit on Varys. When Ned brought up poison, he said Varys is a eunuch. Did you know that? Littlefinger is saying Varys is spying on Ned. What's up with Varys? Give me your thoughts on Varys this chapter and Cersei. Basically, just tell me what you think of those two after this chapter.
So I mean, obviously Varys is still a piece of shit that's like trying to spy on everybody and get the better of everybody. But at least as of now, I don't really see how he fits into this.
Also, in one of the previous chapters, we thought Littlefinger and Varys were like potentially on the same side.
They're buds,
with,
yeah.
With the cat dagger thing. But
Yeah, and
here,
I mean,
Littlefinger's
nah,
ratting out on who's spying for him.
I don't think he really ratted him out though, and I think at the very least, like Varys probably has like 3 dudes looking out Ned's window, not just one dude.
Okay.
So him pointing out, or 2. Well, no, I guess the other one was somebody else's, but I don't.
One in the palm is worth 2 in the bush, or whatever.
Not even that. I think it's like he points out the one, so now Ned's gonna keep an eye on that dude rather than anybody else.
It's like
You know what I'm
magic.
saying?
Well, I
Keep
think
him
he's just gonna keep
distracted.
an eye out the whole
Yeah,
time.
yeah. It's a well, maybe, but I think he's gonna keep a closer eye on that
What
guy.
I don't get here is you think, okay, if Varys is playing these games, Littlefinger's playing these games too, right? Like Littlefinger wants to know what Ned's up to. just as much as
Everybody
anyone.
is. I feel
Yeah,
like
so-
everybody in King's Landing
So
is
here's
probably
what I don't
doing the same
understand.
shit.
If everyone's playing these games, and there's actually a funny part where Ned says, "Is everyone in this city an informer?" And Littlefinger's like, "Hold on, well, there's me, you, and Robert, but Robert tells Cersei way too much, and you, I'm not even sure about myself." So, like, you're right. Everyone is an informer, but if Littlefinger's trying to get info on Ned too, doesn't he make his own job harder by telling Ned to be careful about what he's doing? Or do you
No.
think he's like trying to get?
No.
He's just getting in.
No, this
Ned's-
is
they're
their
trying to win
domain,
trust.
man. This
He's
is
just
their
all on
fucking
Ned's head.
yeah. This is all their house here. Like Ned's the new guy. He's the odd man out. Doesn't matter how on to them he is. They have these connections and lanes and whatnot, and I mean, like they went to the brothel that weird ass back way. Like there's obviously secrets
Yeah.
that Ned will never know.
Ned's way out of his league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think he could tell him like 30% of what he's doing, and still Ned would have no way to figure out what he's actually doing.
So I think next chapter is John, but I
Yeah, it is.
assume one of the coming up that like probably the next chapter we get in King's Landing is tournament or close to tournament. Any predictions for that or winner? Who do you think is going to win the tournament? It's a night you know. It's a
Joffrey,
It's a night that you've heard of. Joffrey, okay.
Arya's gonna win
All right. We'll take that. We'll take that.
on 1
It's
foot.
Bran.
Bran.
He can ride again.
Arya's
right.
gonna win on 1 foot, Nelson.
All right. Well, Kyle's wasting our time, so we're going to let him
I'm not
go.
wasting your time. No, it'll probably be the Hound. We're talking about the Hound. He's gonna beat Barristan.
All right. Kyle guesses the Hound. Any other predictions before you leave, Kyle?
No.
All right. Have a good trip. We'll miss you in Jamaica. Kyle will be talking like this,
Oh,
man, in the
man.
next episode, man.
See you later, Kyle.
man.
Have a good night.
Bye, Kyle.
Bye, Kyle. See you next
Later.
time.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
All right.
All right, see you
Kyle.
later, Kyle. We'll talk to you on the next episode. And now on to the spoiler section of Ned 5. Guys, what are your hot takes on this episode?
All right, right into it. No bullshitting. Nelson, give us your bullshit.
I only got one main thing, and it's like about halfway through. But there's a bunch of little things going on. One thing I'm gonna say, and I said it in the first part: Littlefinger is the fucking man, dude. Everything he
good.
says is just gold.
Just
Especially,
a mind game. It's all mind game with him.
I mean, think
He's
about
playing,
how
he's playing chess and Ned's playing checkers.
Kyle.
I agree with that, but
fucking
he doesn't
even-
lie to him at all in that whole.
It's
right,
funny,
but
he
it
doesn't
could,
lie.
But
I
Ned
don't
could be
think he's
thinking it's a
lying.
lie.
And,
Like,
and dude,
He knows Ned has no fucking clue, so you might as well tell him the truth because he's like, "What? Should I trust him? Should I not? What am I doing?" Am I
it's
doing
great
this?
that
You know,
Kyle
what
brought
am I-
up the fact that Ned dies in this chapter, and like we talked about it for a little bit. Because what's the last line of this chapter? Somebody read me the last line of this chapter.
Trusting me
Just
was the
trusting
wisest
me
thing you
was
ever
the
did.
wisest thing you've done since you've climbed down off your horse. Last thing of the chapter is literally Littlefinger telling Ned, "Do not fucking trust me. You're an idiot." I pointed out the thing he said earlier. He literally says like, he tells a joke like, if you trust people, then I'm going to sell you a castle in Chernobyl." Yeah, right? It's like, you're such an idiot if you trust people.
Yeah.
Littlefinger, he's telling him the way it is. He's given him every opportunity to succeed. And at this point, I honestly don't know what Littlefinger's up to, but I don't think he's chosen a side yet. I still think he thinks Ned might be his ticket. Like, he's honestly trying to help Ned here. He's like, Ned might win this. He's like, Robert could die. And I think Littlefinger knows Robert's dead. Robert's about to be dead, and he thinks he knows it's going to come down to the major players: Ned, Cersei, maybe Stannis, Renly, right?
Do you think Robert's not a major player because he's just like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna get drunk"?
I think Littlefinger knows that with all the.
How can you
Littlefinger
really
knows that-
plan for Robert to die in that boring accident, though? Like, he just got drunk. How many people has he killed when he's drunk?
So we'll get into this later because there's no evidence for this in this chapter. But people think Bloodraven's behind
The
the
boar.
death, the boar war game.
But how would
Um,
Cersei play a part in that? So, I don't know.
Well, she gets him drunk, right? She tells Lancel to get him drunk. She even like thinks to herself that she's responsible for it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's I get what you're saying that like getting someone drunk isn't enough to guarantee they're gonna get killed, but everyone in this book basically everyone knows Cersei's responsible for it, right? Like she takes credit for it basically.
Yeah.
I think Littlefinger just knows. Littlefinger knows about Jon Arryn's death. He knows he knows he killed him, right? Yeah.
I was going to
Littlefinger fucking
say,
killed Jon Arryn,
he
obviously.
knows
I
about
was-
Jon
what the fuck
Arryn's
am I talking
death.
about?
Yes, he
He
orchestrated
killed
it.
Jon Arryn, which is great. The whole time I'm fucking still thinking Cersei killed him when I reread this every time. They do such a good job of making you think that. Littlefinger killed him, and Cersei not being there is a good alibi. Kyle still believes Cersei killed him. I mean, fuck, I did for just a second there. Everything Littlefinger did is perfectly set up. What did Jeff say?
I have no idea, but yeah, I mean, Littlefinger is setting him up for success. Like you're saying, I think he's still trying to decide on a team to play on.
So he knows he killed fucking Jon Arryn, but what he does know is he knows about the incest, right?
Yes.
At this point, Littlefinger knows about the incest.
yeah,
So he's trying to pin everything on the Lannisters. He knows about the incest. If he can pin Jon Arryn's death on the Lannisters, it's definitely Ned versus Lannister, and maybe he doesn't even know Robert's gonna die. But at that point, Littlefinger, if he can be the one that helps Ned figure out the incest, then when Ned goes to Robert, right, Littlefinger's head's not on the line. The problem, Ned says, if I figure out the incest, I have to go to Robert and hope he's the man that I thought he was, right? I think he says that in a future chapter.
Yeah, no. I mean,
Right
except
now-
for what he says in the show. I don't know.
What happens? Littlefinger's thinking, what happens right now if I go to Robert and tell him about Cersei? He just kills probably Littlefinger.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
But if he hears
Littlefinger
it
can't
from
prove that he kills
Ned,
Littlefinger.
a whole
Littlefinger's
war
trying to
breaks
feed
out.
Ned this info, probably, to tell Robert. When Robert dies, that puts a spin on Littlefinger's plans. Now it's a game time decision who he's going to go for, is what I think.
I'm with you. The way I feel Littlefinger plays his games is he's got something in every camp. He's definitely not going all in on just like one hand. He's prepared to play the next hand and the next hand if it was poker.
I think the show did a lot of things bad towards the end, but one thing they did well is I think when Littlefinger and Sansa are in Winterfell together before, I guess it's right after the Battle of the Bastards, and I'm talking about in the show now. They do a few times where Littlefinger and Sansa are
Yeah.
like, Littlefinger's teaching Sansa directly, and there's one part where he's like, play every scenario out in your mind. He's like, play every single thing that each person could do, every action they could take, and how that would affect things. Play that all out in your mind, and you'll never be surprised.
Yep.
And I think that's like what he's doing here. know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's like,
for
okay,
sure.
maybe Robert dies. I'm still okay because I still have a foot in Lannister. I still have a foot in Stark camp. I can go either way when the time comes. He's like, if I back Ned here, as long as no one finds out, even if people find out, whatever, I'm just helping the hand. I get a little leniency there because he's the hand. If I help Ned and he wins this shit, okay, whatever. I'm Ned. He thinks I'm trustworthy and I'm the one to just help them find all this shit. You know, Littlefinger's playing this from every angle and he's playing it like a fucking master. He's playing everyone in King's Landing like a fucking fiddle. I think even maybe varies a little bit at this point.
Yeah, I mean that's the only person you really have to think.
He's
like,
playing Savas, and
why are-
everyone else in
why
King's
are
Landing's
little-
playing chess.
why are Littlefinger and like Varys? They were seen like being weird. I mean, I guess they're both on the council, but like two like probably the least trustworthy people in the Seven Kingdoms being untrustworthy together.
Yeah.
But everybody else, he has like an excuse to be like talking to.
And to what I said to Kyle, I don't know. Like when he goes to the window and he's like, "See that person? That's a spy. That person, that's a spy." He could literally just be pointing to people to make Ned paranoid. But the fact is that there's still spies out there. So I think whether he's lying or not, it doesn't matter. He's still getting Ned's awareness up.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, you guys got anything major in this chapter? I got one more thing that I kind of want to talk about.
The only thing I was like with the whole Pycelle conversation, other than like we know Littlefinger's gonna fucking like he's the one who poisoned with Lysa.
All right, so hold on, one thing real quick. At
Are
the
we
very
saying
beginning,
Lysa didn't do it?
no, at the very beginning of the Pycelle conversation, when they get the milk, a little girl comes in to get the milk. For some reason, I'm immediately red flag Varys little bird for that girl. I don't know why. Did either of you guys get that vibe?
I didn't right away,
I was
but now.
just because it said like little girl ran in and like got the wine.
Yeah, then it's
I
like,
don't
get
know.
out of here or something. Yeah.
I just got a feeling like Varys knows everything that just happened in this conversation.
She wasn't there for that long. Maybe she's like listening at the door. But
All right, so Jeff, what were you gonna say about this conversation?
Pycelle, do you think he's like in the show when he's like barely can bend it, like stand up straight, and then he like does like 15 push-ups and
Dude,
like
what's
he's
awesome
fine.
is there's a deleted scene in one of the seasons where Tywin is in King's Landing. Fuck, it is so good. Go YouTube this if one of you listeners if you haven't seen this, where Tywin is out fishing on the shores of King's Landing. Like he's in like a private shore, but he's on the beach, like, and he's got his sleeves rolled up, and he's literally just fishing, and he's like pulling in like a catfish or like gutting a fish. Like it's kind of like the scene where he's with Jaime, and he's like skinning that deer. But he's doing like something like really manly on the shoreline, and Pycelle comes up with some bad news, and Tywin calls him out for faking, and he's like, "Don't bother me with that fake slouch or whatever. Like, make yourself comfortable." And Pycelle like stands up straight and he's like bees himself in front of Tywin. It's a pretty cool scene. I don't know why it got deleted, but I guess it didn't add much to the show except showing that Tywin is even more of a badass. But I guess we just had enough of that. But so my question about
I'm watching it right now, Nels.
my question about Pycelle is, we know Pycelle covered up this like he knew it was a poisoning and he covered it up. Is he working with Littlefinger or does he? Because in my mind,
that's what I'm confused. Did he help Littlefinger? I don't know that.
Because in my mind, Pycelle is a Lannister. Like, you know what I mean? He's a Lannister pawn, crony. He's a Lannister crony, whatever you want to call it. He works for the Lannisters. He doesn't work for Littlefinger. So I don't know why he would cover up.
I don't know. That's where I'm a little confused.
Unless Littlefinger like has him by the balls and is saying like, "I'm going to tell everyone about the incest if you don't cover this up for me." Or
Not
I guess
incest,
like
but pedophilia.
No, incest. I'm talking about Jaime and Cersei.
Oh,
Like,
never
Littlefinger
mind.
tells
Sorry.
I bet you if Littlefinger tells Pycelle like, "Hey, I know about the incest."
All right, sorry, I'm back.
What do you think? Do you see it?
I didn't. I just thought, but like Tywin is a goat. Like that actor is a really good dude. Like he's the man.
Glow. You're gonna like this. He's actually the king of the Nilfgaardians in the Witcher 3 game. He's
Really?
Charles. Fuck, what's his name? That actor
Is
is
it
the voice actor
Danson?
for
Is it Charles Danson?
Charles Danson, something like that. Charles Dance, maybe. Yeah, he's the voice actor for the King of Nilfgaard in that game. It's awesome.
Amir.
But yeah,
whatever
Jeff.
his
So
name
what
is?
we were saying while you weren't listening was, is he like Pycelle and Littlefinger have to be working together if he covered up this murder, right? If he covered up the poisoning and Littlefinger did the poisoning, they got to be working together.
You think he's involved?
Well, he has like Littlefinger poisoned Jon Arryn, and Pycelle right here is saying it's not poison. So either he honestly doesn't know, like I was saying, but I doubt it.
Yeah, you gotta doubt it. But why is he covering it up? Maybe
Maybe
face
Littlefinger
Lannisters
paid
did
him
it?
off. Littlefinger maybe.
I mean,
paid him
here's
off?
the weird thing. Like, do you really expect like if you're if you're a doctor and you have an old ass man who's died from natural causes, like the first thing that you don't just go like, "Oh my god, poison!" Like you're like, "Oh my god, this guy was old as fuck." Like,
Yeah, but when
he's
people keep
tired as
like
shit.
if Ned
He
brings it
could
up,
have
like,
died,
could it have been poison? You would think about it and be like, maybe.
dude.
And how
something's
sudden
wrong,
it
like,
was.
I mean, I guess we found out he used a tears of lice, which is a kind of rare poison, but I don't know.
Lease,
that
bro.
doesn't show any.
Lease.
So Glow, what I noticed, a lot of sweet in this chapter.
Yes. How'd you know?
Mostly about the iced honey, I think.
This is the only note I had
Too
on this
sweet for
chapter. Sweet.
Sweet milk.
Sweet milk.
Glow's got a fucking yellow legal pad that he takes his Game of Thrones notes on. I love it.
One
But
legal
yeah,
pad
the
he writes
sweetness
down one
definitely
fucking word.
is about like covering up and lies. So like whenever sweetness is around, someone's lying or something.
Yeah, there was a
And-
time where
So
it seemed like-
Pycelle, I noticed there's a lot of sweet, and then Littlefinger, there's nothing mentioned sweet, like no sweet words, sweet voice, or anything.
I feel like it kept just being like Pycelle kept telling Ned almost what Ned wanted, not what Ned wanted to hear, because Ned wants to hear about the deception, but like he keeps feeding him bullshit, and Ned's like, this is too sweet, this is too sweet,
Yeah,
this is too
exactly.
sweet. Like every time Pycelle said something, Ned was like, this is a little too sweet.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting from it. I didn't.
It's too
I was
sweet,
hoping you were
I
going to
want
come
to
with
throw
a
up.
sweet
I think
analysis.
that's
for
a good,
me. But that's what I
good
had from it.
inference.
All right. Anything else? Glow. That was your only note, Jeff. You got anything else? I had
Anything
one more
with
thing.
like his old man, like his young boy story about the summers or anything like that. I would
So
just say
King
nothing.
Maekar. Who's Maekar?
Come
Aegon's
dad.
on. Aegon's dad.
All right, what about Maekar's dad or Aegon's dad?
I mean, that's just cool that it's Aegon's dad, and Pycelle was alive during Aegon's dad's reign. So that means Pycelle was alive during Aegon's reign, because Aegon had to be king after his dad. It's when his dad
So he's
died, right?
almost as old as Aemon.
He said that he was at the Citadel before Ned's father was born. So that's a long ass time ago. Just, I don't know. I think it's cool when they tie that shit into the Duncan Egg stories, or I guess the Duncan Egg got tied into this. I mean, think about it.
Maekar was the king. Just refresh my memory because I
He was
forgot.
Egg's dad from
Egg's
Duncan
dad.
Egg stories.
And how did he die? He just got sick.
How did Maekar die? I don't remember. He didn't die in the
just got
spring
sick,
sickness.
right?
he didn't die in the spring sickness. I think Egg's
He
brothers
doesn't
did.
die in the Duncan Egg, right? He stays alive just as all of his brothers die.
Yeah, but like 2 of them die in the spring sickness, and some of them die other ways. I don't think Maekar dies of the spring sickness. I don't remember how it happens. It's even crazy that Maekar becomes king because Maekar's like the 4th brother of like Balon, and like I think Maekar had like other brothers above him. But whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's just I think it's a cool callback. Like when you think about how George wrote these books, he wrote this before Duncan Egg, before he even had a thought of Duncan Egg. So this is a throwaway line about some king who was in the past.
Yeah,
And later,
I mean,
when he goes and writes Duncan Egg, or he makes another king reference later on, he ties it all together. He's even said in interviews, he's like, at some point about halfway through the first book, I realized that I keep referencing kings. I better make a list of kings and at least
Yeah.
the years they reigned, and that kind of thing. And you think that he then takes that and goes and writes a Duncan Egg book from it? Like that's nuts. Maybe not.
yeah,
nuts, but it's
I
really
honestly
freaking
think it is really cool. Like I said multiple times, like when he was writing this, just imagine his bedroom with notes written all over the place and shit like that. Like he probably had a room just of whiteboards and shit. Like I don't know. Like
Dude, he
it
still
Like-
uses
it
like
blows
an
my
old,
mind.
All the
It
strings
blows my mind.
everywhere.
he still
Yeah.
uses like an old DOS computer, like DOS WordPress. It's like ridiculous the setup he has.
But moving on.
So the only thing I had that I kind of wanted to talk about, and I've mentioned it to you guys before, mainly about Jaime falling asleep in the moonlight on a weirwood stump. This is Sansa and Arya falling asleep, and as the moon comes up in front of the weirwood heart tree, or not weirwood,
It's not
oak,
a weirwood.
It's an oak heart tree. But we know that if it has a face, I bet you Bloodraven can see through it.
You
which is
really
what we
think
were
that?
touching about. I bet, dude. Because Bran, when he like wargs into the trees for the first time, he says he can see through like all the trees, not just the weirwoods. But then he said it's easier to see through the weirwoods. He can see like the whole situation, what's happening at the weirwood trees. Did you guys So I've told you guys that like people think that I've told you guys that I think mostly either weirwoods or maybe even trees can send dreams as well as moonlight. I've told you guys both those things, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me find this quote I have written down.
Is it the weirwood affects the trees or just Bloodraven? Like Weirwood allows him to see, but I feel like he
Yeah,
needs
if
to...
Bloodraven can influence the people through trees, right? So if somebody's like asleep in a castle, maybe Bloodraven can't influence them. But if they're near a tree, it's easier for him to influence them.
But Bran's
Right, I
always
think-
sleeping in a castle.
Next to Summer, I don't know.
And also,
Also,
Bran is
Kyle,
a ward slash.
Kyle had a great prediction. Who knows what Kyle's great prediction was?
I said Kyle's digging through the pile. I forget what it was.
No, I don't think that was what he was talking about.
He predicted who's going to win the tournament correctly.
The Hound.
The Hound.
Oh, I
So it
didn't hear him
says-
say that.
So this is when Ned talking to Arya has that little flashback about the Godswood. The night the bird had come from Winterfell, Eddard Stark had taken the girls to the castle Godswood, an acre of elm and alder and black cottonwood overlooking the river. The heart tree there was a great oak, its ancient limbs overgrown with smokeberry vines. They knelt before it to offer their thanksgiving as if it had been a weirwood. Sansa drifted off to sleep as the moon rose. Arya several hours later, curling up in the grass under Ned's cloak. All through the dark hours he kept vigil alone. When dawn broke over the city, the dark red blooms of dragon breath surrounded the girls where they lay. I dreamed of Bran, Sansa had whispered to him. I saw him smiling. So, maybe we don't get total proof of what I'm telling you guys, but Sansa has a dream of something important that we just get news about right after sleeping in
Yeah.
a situation where I'm telling you guys I think people can get sent dreams. I don't know. Interesting. Also interesting that Ned keeps vigil all night, so he doesn't actually sleep. So Ned doesn't get a dream in this situation.
It's kind of weird that he doesn't fall asleep. Like, it's weird that they're sleeping out there.
So I think they're about to start picking up. Ned starts having dreams about like the Tower of Joy coming up soon. I think in these chapters because Robert starts bringing up about when Robert finds out that Dany's pregnant, which has to be coming up soon, right? George has to be sending a letter here soon, and Dany 3 took place, like I said, way back when. That's why the timeline matters. Dany 3 took place way back when. Robert's going to be getting a letter that Dany's pregnant here soon. And that when Robert starts wanting to kill Dany, that's when Ned starts having dreams about Lyanna's
Tower
baby.
Joy, yeah.
Which, because Dany is Lyanna's baby, of course. But that's neither here nor there. That's all I have for this chapter. I mean, like just a few things we talked about with Kyle, like when Ned's talking about Bran, and he says he's never gonna run beside his wolf again. Bran gets to like run inside his wolf.
Yeah, he
mean?
says he never gets to run next to him. So yeah,
He gets to lie with a woman, but I think he probably fucks people as Summer. Hold his son in his arms. I don't know. Maybe Summer has some babies and Bran holds some little baby direwolves in his paws. That'd be cute as fuck. I don't know. I think this chapter is Littlefinger's the man. I don't know what the fuck's up with Pycelle. I still don't know what the fuck's up with Littlefinger. I don't know what the fuck's up with Varys. I've read these books so many times, and this first book still confused me with what everyone's motivations are early on, and that's why it's great. Anything else
Book
from you
is
guys?
great. No, it
Put
was
'em
really
in.
short and quick.
yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
All right,
Give us
guys,
a
like and
comment
follow on YouTube, Pornhub, and
iTunes or
Spotify.
Sorry I didn't talk much. I had a lot of technical difficulties where I couldn't hear it.
It's all good.
I feel like you did better than normal.
Dark wings, dark words, love your voice.